here. All right, are we going to dive in? Are we at time?
Let's dive in.
Let's do it.
Absolutely. Do you want to talk briefly? Just, I'm guessing that we don't have to spend a lot of time on this because people have been in a
I
couple sessions
mean,
already.
I hope at this point you have heard this every time, but just a reminder, and you're already in the chat, which I love, chat and Q&A. Julie's running the session today, but Kelsey here, will be monitoring the chat and the Q&A. So if you have questions, let me know. We'll make sure we address them. Turn on closed captioning if you want it. And then I see most of you have your chat set to everyone, but a couple of you have it set to hosts and panelists. If you change it to everyone, then we can all see your comments, which would be fun. So if you can do that, that would be so great.
And Laura, you're right. I've lived in the Midwest my whole life. It might show. All right. So let's just take a quick moment. Not sure how you have spent your summer. Hopefully it's been good. But if you could vacation anywhere, where would it be? Where would you love to go?
Hmm. You know what? We did this. We had our last session. People were talking about their highlights of the summer. I will tell you,
Mhm.
Alaska is on my list of places that I'd really
Mhm.
like to go. Someone mentioned that last
Italy is
session.
top on mine for sure.
Okay, we got Ireland, Maine, Ireland, a couple Irelands in there, Europe, just particularly France, Italy, Africa, Hawaii. Love it. Love it. So many good things. Somewhere
Hmm.
cooler. Laura's like, get me out of here. I love it. Uh, I
All
am
right.
afraid, Gerard, to pronounce yours because I feel like I'm going to say it wrong. So, in Virginia here, I think
Yeah,
so I'm just going to not say it
I'm
out
never really
loud.
sure about how to say that either. I've been there. It's beautiful.
Okay. All right.
Hmm.
Iceland.
Iceland. I want to go to Iceland.
I used to do this project with my students, my world geography students, and they would do a travel project, and Iceland was consistently on the like every one of their lists of places that seemed the most cool to visit. So, what do you know? Love
Awesome.
it.
All right, let's keep going. So, a little bit about me. As I said, I am living in South Bend, Indiana currently. Always lived in the Midwest. Again, it might show. I consider Michigan home. And I was in Michigan when I became acquainted with TCI, gosh, well over 20 years ago, when my district was adopting and I was piloting and became a district coach. And I've been in love with TCI ever since. So, one of the highlights of my summer, frankly, is when I do get to work with teachers across the country, not only to see different parts or hear about different parts of our country, but just sharing my passion for TCI. I have taught mostly elementary, but also middle school, a little bit of college, and currently I am a literacy coach. Pardon me. What are we going to talk about today? We are going to talk about one of my very favorite strategies, visual discovery. What is it and why use it? We're going to look at examples of visual discovery built into TCI. And then we're going to look at taking this amazing strategy and using it in other content areas. So I'm hoping you get a lot out of this session. It's definitely one of my passions. So you heard Bert, our founder, this morning. TCI was founded really when he realized that the materials he had didn't meet his students' needs and it needed to be more engaging. And so TCI was founded on these 6 strategies, all of them very powerful, all of them built into, regardless of the grade level, regardless of the program you use, every lesson is built around one of these 6 strategies. But today we're going to talk about visual discovery. And what is visual discovery? It uses engaging images, sometimes videos, and then uses questions to invite students to notice, to develop their observation skills, to infer and use the clues or the evidence in the image to back up their claim, and at the same time to build their knowledge and their understanding about a topic or about content. When you use visual discovery, it automatically turns a lecture, a teacher-centered lesson into an opportunity to build oral literacy and discussion skills. It is such a powerful, powerful strategy. I'm going to show you an example. Sometimes, if visual discovery is the main strategy in a lesson, sometimes it becomes not only the noticing and observing, but actually becoming part of a living picture or video. And so, this is a middle school example of just that. So, we're going to take a couple minutes and watch this.
All right, class, good job on taking the reading the section and taking notes. Now we're going to bring this image to life in an act out. And you're going to be given one of the following roles to perform. So I want you to take a look at these because you're going to bring one of these people to life. Circle your assigned character. Have you guys done that?
Yes.
All right. That's step number one. Step number two is make sure that both you and your partner can answer the questions that are on the handout. Those are the questions that you're going to be asked from the perspective of your assigned character.
Why are American Indians being removed from their homelands? Because we need to take them, move them so that we have more room to settle and stuff, so we can live there.
Class, we're ready for Act It Out. So I would like JC, Amanda, and Kevin to come on up. JC, who's your character?
I am an armed soldier.
Okay, so here's your character. I'd like you to stand right there in front of your armed soldier. Look like a soldier. Okay, Amanda, what is your character?
I am a Cherokee mother.
Okay, this is you right here. Remember that face. Make a face and body language that looks like that. And who are you?
I'm Andrew Jackson.
Okay, you're not in the image, but we want to be able to see you. So you're going to be right here kind of looking at this scene, okay? Andrew Jackson, do you think this policy of Indian removal is fair?
Well, it's obviously very, very fair because we need land to like live on. So these guys obviously have to move so we can get some land. I don't think it's fair
Why not?
because it's our land.
How has this policy changed your life?
Well, it gave me a job to escort them out of their land. So I'm quite happy about that.
Gotcha. So you think this policy promotes American democracy?
No, because we're not being treated fair, the same.
Andrew Jackson, what do you think?
Well, I think it's democratic because we're Americans and they're not, I guess, kind of. So.
Okay, so there is just a little snippet of, again, not every time, but sometimes you can use the visual discovery to actually look at different perspectives, think outside of your own world. What else did you notice in that lesson? What would the kids get out of that? How is what you just saw different from a teacher just lecturing or kids just reading the text? Yeah, role playing, very interactive. Students have to think deeply. And it doesn't tell them what to think or what opinion to take, but it does share different perspectives. And then it asks them to develop their own opinion and back it up with evidence. I noticed that even when the two boys were reading out of the textbook, they weren't just reading, they were answering the questions from various perspectives. And then, of course, the video activity itself.
All right, class. Good
Sorry.
job.
Hold on. There we go. So what do you do in a visual discovery? You set up the image, you encourage classroom interaction, and then you ask sequence questions that lead to discovery. And I don't know if you've ever heard this. I think I first heard Deanna, one of our account managers, use an analogy of TCI as a cookbook. So if it's the first time you're teaching it, if you're new to the lesson, the questions will be there. It will tell you exactly what to do, exactly what to ask. But it's also designed to bring yourself into it, to have some of that creativity and that joy. And so you don't have to use the questions that are on the screen. You can absolutely make it your own, but you're going to ask sequence questions that lead students to notice, form claims, and back it up with evidence. it is so powerful that really almost every single lesson, regardless of the grade level, regardless of the program, is going to have an element of it, often in the preview portion of the lesson. And sometimes it will be the main strategy and it will go a little deeper. So I want to share something with you. If you are an elementary teacher, you might be familiar with this. Scarborough's reading rope. It is a model of reading. There's a copyright on it, so we couldn't share the image, but you can Google it and see what it looks like. But basically, imagine a large rope. And on the right side of it, it's all the parts of the rope that come together to make a skilled reader. And on the left side, it's broken down into two strands. One is the word recognition strand, and that has the threads of decoding, phonological awareness, which basically means being able to hear the sounds that those little squiggles make. It's a precursor to phonics, and sight recognition. If you teach an older grade, the word recognition part for you is largely morphology and looking at word parts, which not only helps with decoding, but it also helps with vocabulary, because the other half of the rope, the other strand, is the language comprehension strand. And if you've heard of science of reading, gosh, there's been so much attention paid to phonics and to the word recognition part. But equally important is the language comprehension. So that includes the vocabulary knowledge, the background knowledge, the language structure, the literacy knowledge, and the verbal reasoning. And the visual discovery is a great opportunity to build or introduce vocabulary knowledge, background knowledge, and verbal reasoning. I also want to point out one more thing. Scarborough's rope has been around for, gosh, over 20 years, and it is very researched. It is held up to the standards of time, and it is very respected. But Hollis Scarborough herself says that if she could go back and redo it, she thinks she left one part out, and that is the oral literacy. Kids cannot become skilled readers, let alone writers, if they don't have that oral literacy, if they don't talk about things, if they don't share their thinking, if they don't learn how to listen to other people's thinking. And the honest place that we're at is too many of our kids don't get that at home. They don't sit around a dinner table. They don't talk about things. The classroom is their opportunity to build oral literacy. So, while we're not talking about text in this particular session, know that vocabulary knowledge and background knowledge, verbal reasoning, and the oral literacy are so vital, whether you're teaching kindergarten or whether you're teaching high school. It is absolutely critical. And the visual discovery is a great way to build those pieces. Any thoughts or questions about that?
I don't see any questions in there. We did just throw our TCI strategies toolkit into the chat so
Awesome.
that people can be able to see that as well.
Wonderful. So there's a book called The Knowledge Gap, and the author, Natalie Wexler, says the most important factor in determining whether readers can understand a text is how much relevant vocabulary or background knowledge they have. And that is part of the beauty of the content areas of science and social studies, of TCI's heart, is building vocabulary, building background knowledge, helping students understand their world so that they can be more active participants in it. And again, visual discovery is a great way to do both of those. So let's jump into a lesson. So this is first grade. And this lesson is called What Do Good Neighbors Do? So the whole point of it is basically just to describe some of the things that a good neighbor does. And in this lesson, the engaging part is students are going to have some super secret binoculars and go around the neighborhood looking for good neighbors. All right, I need to move a little toolbox there. So here in the preview is a great opportunity to just dive into an image a little bit. How are people being good neighbors? Build those powers of observation and notice and make a claim. What are people doing to be good neighbors? Like I said, almost every preview activity, whether it's science or social studies, is probably going to have an element of visual discovery because it is so powerful. And then we're going to do a little reading and we're going to do some vocabulary. And then we're going to get into the meat of the lesson. So notice these high-tech binoculars that these first graders are going to have. They're going to do a little reading and then they're going to look for how are people being good neighbors. So there's the reading, there's some neighbors, and here are the secret binoculars. Are you ready? And then on the next slide is that image. And this is the chance to, okay, what do you notice in here? What is making, what are the examples here? What are people doing to be good neighbors? And have that oral discussion. That is such a huge part of the TCI approach is that oral discussion and having kids think critically, observe, and talk about what they're seeing. And it goes on with some other scenarios the same way. I'm going to jump back into the slide and okay, so there was a study done by Grover Whitehurst. You can Google him if you want to. He did this study, but I have to tell you, it has been replicated and really proven to be really profound research. And he basically set up two groups of kids. One group had a read aloud every single day. And the other group not only had the read aloud, but then the instructors used this dialogic conversation. And over the course of 8 weeks, 2 months, the students who not only had the read aloud, but they also had that oral discussion and the dialogic conversation, they built their vocabulary by over 8 months worth of growth. That's pretty profound. So rich read alouds are fabulous, but it's that oral discussion. So the dialogic conversation is engaging a student, which a visual discovery does. What do you notice or what are you thinking? And then repeating what the student says, kind of to reinforce it. And if they make a mistake, for instance, if you're looking at an image of pioneers crossing the West and a student says, I see a camper wagon, instead of saying, no, that's not a camper wagon, you would say, it does look like one, doesn't it? It's called a covered wagon. So taking a mistake as an opportunity to introduce that vocabulary in a very respectful way. So you're asking the students a question, you're reinforcing what they say, and then you're expanding on it. It does look like a camper, doesn't it? It's called a covered wagon. And sometimes a covered wagon is called a Conestoga wagon. People would carry their belongings in it and use it as a traveling home as they traveled across the country. It was kind of a camper. So again, 3 easy steps that are really effective, whether you're dealing with kindergarten or whether you're dealing with high school. Engage, ask a question, reinforce and repeat what they say, um, correct respectfully if needed with the proper terminology, and then expand and ask them another question. How cool is that? And you can do it with the images in textbooks. You can do it with the images that are part of the TCI slides. You won't have access to the slide deck, but you will have access to the recording. So you can watch it and like take still shots if you want to. You can also look up dialogic conversation if that is helpful. Okay, so let's say you're showing this to first grade students and they say they're picking up trash. How could you repeat what they say and or correct? And how could you expand on it? maybe say they are picking up trash. They're picking up that litter to help clean up their neighborhood. Is there some place around your neighborhood where people could pick up some litter? Something like that. It's that simple. Engage them, ask a question, repeat and correct if necessary, and then expand on what they're saying. Yeah, where can we pick up trash? Right. You could talk about all the places at home, at school. How can we be good neighbors even at school and pick up trash, right? Okay, so you ask these first graders, what do you notice in this picture? And the first grader says they're laughing. So you want to repeat what they say and expand on it. What could you say? How could you bump up the critical thinking or the vocabulary or the background knowledge? Oh, giggling is a great word. Yes, she is giggling. Why do you think they're giggling? Or why do you think they're laughing? Exactly. So simple. And what a profound impact it can make on our students' oral literacy, vocabulary, and background knowledge. Yeah, what caused them to laugh? Ooh, a little cause and effect. Teresa, were you in the content literacy course session? But yeah, you could totally ask that cause and effect. Okay, I'm going to throw one more at you. So I gave you the dialogic conversation, which is not specifically TCI, but totally goes along with it. And again, it's a really well-researched way to build your students' oral literacy, vocabulary, and background knowledge. The other one I'm going to throw at you is from Harvard's Project Zero, a program they have called Artful Thinking, using pieces of artwork to build powers of observation, oral literacy, vocabulary, and background knowledge. And I have to tell you, TCI's visual discovery was around long before Harvard's Project Zero Artful Thinking. I don't know about the Project Zero, but definitely around before Artful Thinking. TCI was way ahead of its time. So Artful Thinking has a number of, I call them cognitive routines, for lack of a better word. And my favorite one, or one of my favorites, is called See, Think, Wonder. I use it with kids from preschool, college, adults, all age groups. And there are 3 steps. What do you notice, or what do you see? And giving a chance to really dig deep, noticing details. And then the second step is once they've noticed all these details, okay, now what are you thinking about? What do you see? What's happening? Why is it happening? And this is the opportunity for that verbal reasoning, for inferring. I saw someone earlier say something about inferring. The second step, the think part, is what's happening and how can you tell? So we know that close reading is a huge part of literacy now. We want kids to go back into the text, find evidence, give reasons for what they're saying. And that's really hard for a lot of kids. But I have found that using visual discovery, using See, Think, Wonder, and even the questions that are built into TCI's program, that's an opportunity for kids to practice finding evidence or clues to support their thinking. And then when you make the transition into doing it into text, it's not nearly as difficult. So, what do you notice or see? What do you think is happening? And then the third question is, what are you wondering? And that could either be what isn't making sense, what are you struggling with, but it could also be what are you curious about? What do you want to know more about? So, see, think, wonder. Combined with the dialogic conversation, holy cow, so much critical thinking, so much oral literacy, so much growth. So let's jump into a 3rd grade lesson. And this particular lesson is settling in the United States. So the preview is giving kids their own personal experience, what they know about moving, what it's like. And again, that oral literacy, if they've never moved, they hear from other kids, so it helps build that background knowledge. And then we're going to go into this image. So notice how the questions are right here and they're really similar to See, Think, Wonder. What do you notice? Where are they? Where might they have come from? Where might they be going? How might they feel? Right? That's all asking them to infer. So you can use these questions. You can also, if you're comfortable with it, just go with it. See, think, wonder, and keep in mind those opportunities to repeat what kids say and expand on their knowledge. So let's be well-behaved third graders. What do you notice in this image?
I'm ready to
Suitcase.
call out oh, there we go. I was going to say, call out what we see
Mhm.
here in the chat.
We're going to
Okay.
do this a couple times. So use that
I
chat.
know. I
Throw
was going
those
to say,
answers
be
in.
prepared to put it in there. All right.
And when I do this, sometimes I have, if I'm working with third grade or above, I might have kids make notes and make a list of what they notice, or I might just do it orally, whatever works for you. Okay, Matt, I love that question. And so I would say if a kid said that, because often they jump right into the inferring, oh, they've just sailed on a ship. So if they do the inferring, I take a step back. Oh, what are the clues or the evidence that make you think that? Right? And so, maybe they notice the hats, definitely the suitcases, the water in the background. It looks like a boat. And if someone says, I wonder where they've come from, I might say as the teacher, huh, do you think they've traveled a short distance? Is it an afternoon sail? How can you tell? So I'm asking them again to do that close reading, but with an image. What is the evidence that helps them know, yeah, it wasn't an afternoon sail. They have suitcases, so they've come a long way. And then the questions, yeah, where did they come from? Who was the boat named after, right? We want kids to be curious and to be asking questions. So that's a little taste of the See, Think, Wonder. I'm going to jump back to the slides. And we're going to go to a sixth grade lesson. Well, middle school, ancient world. I think of it as sixth grade. It could be anything in middle school. Okay, so this is the achievements of ancient Persia. Okay, and the essential question is, in what way did ancient Persians influence the world around them? So we're going to go into the activity. And it's going to give a little background information for students. And again, they would have had a lesson before this that would be building on that. So they know a little bit about what Persia was and when. A few little images to notice, ask questions about, wonder. A little timeline of the development of writing. And notice again that even with this chart, there's kind of a see, think, wonder on the other side. What do you notice? What are some of the similarities and differences? How do they compare? So these questions are often built in, but you can absolutely build on it with the dialogic conversation with the see, think, wonder. So they're doing a little reading, they're doing a little vocabulary, and then notice it actually says this activity is a visual discovery. So we're going to examine some images. What do you notice? What are you thinking? What do you wonder? So, what do you notice in this image?
Who's going to be the first one, Julie, to throw it in the
Yeah.
chat? All right,
Ooh.
Stephanie Zana, there are
And
buildings that are now ruined.
Yeah, Stephanie is obviously a gifted student because she's saying that these buildings are ruined. So my question for you, Stephanie, is how can you tell? What's the clue or the evidence that makes you think that this isn't how they were built? Yeah, stones are crumbled. What a great opportunity to bring in some vocabulary. Ruins, crumbled. some of those great words. So see, think, wonder, maybe a dialogic conversation, extending their knowledge and introducing new vocabulary. And this whole lesson, that's basically what they're doing. Economics and network, it's basically a visual discovery with some reading along the way to give them background knowledge. It is such a great lesson. But I'm noticing time. I want to keep going because you can also, whoops, sorry, you can also do this outside of TCI. So when you're reading in a science book and there's a chart, you can do a see, think, wonder and or a dialogic conversation about that. Um, Often when I started using TCI, TCI science did not exist. And so what I would do is when I was starting a new unit, I would seek out some kind of image as my own preview because I had been TCI'd in terms of my own understanding of how to engage students, how to build background knowledge. And I would do that on my own. I would come up with some kind of image to spark their interest and get them talking. When I did a reading group, I would spend time talking about the illustrations and do a quick see, think, wonder with the illustrations because that way they had an idea of what the story was going to be about. And so it made it a little easier for them to comprehend it as they were focusing on decoding the words. So visual discovery, I used it in every area in my classroom. Definitely charts, but this is what I really wanted to save time for. Um, Norman Rockwell is one of my very favorite artists. His images always tell a story. And this is one of my favorites. So we're going to do a little see, think, wonder. If you know what this is, don't tell. Okay. I'll tell you at the end. But let's do a little analysis and see, think, wonder. What do you notice in this image? What jumps out at you? Ooh, okay. Laundry. Laura says the army guy is coming home. Laura, you are a gifted student. You have just inferred that. What is your evidence? How do you know that it's an army guy and how do you know that he's coming home? It's that close reading and finding what are the clues or the evidence that helped you know that. Yeah, the man on the roof, the woman with her arms open. Definitely. Okay. So with my students, I'm gonna or adults, because this is such a great image, gonna really have them dig in. What do they notice? So to save a little time, often people will notice there's a star in the window, but they don't know what that means. So great opportunity to bring in some vocabulary, to bring in some background knowledge. Often if there's a star in the window, somebody say in the chat, what does that mean? So a star in the window means that you have someone in the military. Yeah, active duty. And then you notice, ooh, in this, first of all, people staring out the window, kids in the tree, and look up here, 3 stars, but it's the same building. What's going on there? If you live in a more rural area or a suburb, kids may not understand apartment houses and how it's several families living together. But look here, this family has 3 active duty service people, right? Yeah. Um, Great opportunity to talk about the time. Do you think that this is current day or is it in the past? And really think about that. What are the clues or the evidence? So lots of noticing. Couple questions like, when do you think this is happening? How can you tell? And then, okay, so what is happening? Okay, it's a serviceman coming home. Here's my question for you. Did they know he was coming? And how do you know that? What is your evidence or the clues? Did they know he was coming? Oh, no, because several people look surprised and they're engaged in everyday activities. Yeah, if they had known he was coming home, would this guy be fixing the roof? Right? Yeah, the looks on their faces, they look really surprised. Look, this kid isn't even touching ground. He's so excited to get there. Same with the dog. Yeah. So, what do you think is happening? Again, great opportunity. When do we think this is happening? Any ideas based on the evidence? Uniform is different from today's. Okay. Post World War II. Ah, okay. So again, great opportunity to talk about all these families. Um, they've lived in these apartments for years. Families grew very close to each other. So these people, you better bet they're wanting their own soldiers to return home. But oh my gosh, if this guy is home, maybe theirs will return home too. So just that neighborhood collaboration and the relationships between people, right? Laundry on the line. People didn't have washing machines then. They hung their laundry on the line to dry. World War II, Laura, that's my guess too, based on the clues of what the uniform looks like, based on the clothing that's worn, for sure. So, see, what do you notice? Think what's happening, and how do you know? And then wonder. So, what are you wondering when you look at this? Oh, is that girl his sweetheart? Oh, somebody always notices the girl. Any clues or evidence? What do you think? Might she be a girlfriend based on the evidence? Why is he home? Is the war over? Yeah, great questions. And we don't always know the answers, and that's okay. But let's use the evidence to talk about it. Is there evidence that answers it for sure? Are there indications? My guess is because these stars are still in the window up in the upper apartment, either the war isn't over yet or it's just ended and people aren't home yet. He's maybe one of the first. Yeah. Here's my question for you. The girl looks way more dressed up and she's hiding. Did she know ahead of time? And if she did, we don't know the answer for sure. How might she have known? What's happening there? Let's tell the story. Maybe love letters. Yeah. Maybe he sent a telegram. Maybe she saw him at the train station. We don't know for sure. But a great opportunity to talk about what are some theories? What is there evidence of? Great opportunity for discourse. Again, building vocabulary, building background knowledge. So this painting is called The Homecoming by Norman Rockwell. But what a great precursor if you're doing a novel about World War II, or even if you're starting a social studies lesson about World War II, starting with a piece of artwork like this and doing the see, think, wonder along with the dialogic conversation can really build background knowledge ahead of time so that when kids are reading, it makes more sense to them and they have a personal hook. Okay, so um, threw a lot at you today in a very short amount of time. What are you thinking about your own classroom? What did you see today that you might use and how? Even like a particular lesson or a particular content area. Start those wheels turning. You might not have great ideas yet, but start the wheels turning and we'll figure some things out together. How could you use this? Yeah, see, think, wonder is so powerful, and I'm telling you, the whole artful thinking has so many great routines. Morning meeting, oh yeah, again, those oral discussions. Yeah, jumpstart the lesson on the Roaring Twenties, where people take on the persona of different people. Yeah, that's something else. If we had more time, we would have done another artful thinking routine about perspectives. How's the boy feeling? How's the mom feeling? How are the neighbors feeling? And perspective, empathy. Definitely, Matt, definitely. That is so powerful, getting kids to be curious and start developing their own questions for sure. So I'm hoping that you find when you come across a visual discovery in your TCI program that you can really get a lot of bang for the buck out of it, and that you can maybe take that strategy and use it across content areas. Any other questions or thoughts, especially as you're seeing other people's ideas? Laura, that would be a great way to spend your Friday. Yeah. I did See, Think, Wonder. Even I took my kids once on a field trip. We were studying the water cycle and we went to a local nature preserve, and they had this big water table set up. And I loved the guide. He was going to explain it to the kids. And I was friends with him, so I felt comfortable doing this. I said, I know you have things to share with them, but can we start with this routine? Do you mind if I just take a few minutes? And he said, go for it. So we did the water table with the water and the runoff and the whole deal. And I did the what do you notice? And we went around the circle. So based on what you notice, what do you think is happening? And they went around the circle. And I'm telling you, they got more out of it than they ever would have gotten by him just talking at them. And then they had all these great wonder questions that he was able to address. So we do the See, Think, Wonder. We came back and I looked at him and I said, they're all yours. And he goes, they just did way more than I could have done. It was amazing. So the See, Think, Wonder, the visual discovery, not only with images, but the sky's the limit. So many ways to use it. Allowing children discussion time. Yes, it is so vital, that oral literacy at every grade level, for sure. All right. And so, you just talked about how you can use this, but I'm going to suggest that you go to Facebook or Instagram. What was the favorite thing that you learned from maybe this session, maybe something else? Actually, you can throw that in the chat if you want to. What's your biggest takeaway? Either from this session or maybe an earlier session.
Yeah, I would love to see that. And share it on social media too. I just, in between sessions today, hopped on and saw so many people posting just some of their favorites from the summit today. So great to see those and to read those. So we'd love to hear from everybody in here as well.
We're going to give it a
Awesome.
moment here. What was the best thing you saw today or your biggest takeaway? Or even a couple? Using the visual discovery. Wonderful. Oh, Dominique, I'm thrilled that you're here, especially if TCI is new to you. Yeah, and Kelsey sharing that toolkit. The other strategies are really great too.
Absolutely. And I know we had a couple strategy sessions. So being able to go back and watch the recordings, when you get those, you should get an email by tomorrow, maybe even later today, with all of those recordings. And so being able to kind of go back and watch some of those other ones that you didn't join. So absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, it makes my heart happy seeing the takeaways being oral literacy and the dialogic conversation. Your kids will be very well served. Thank you, Laura.
Awesome. I love to see all of these things in here. It's so great.
We have time for just a couple more. Yeah, the translations, Matt, they've come a long way, haven't they? And I'm glad you got a lot out of the See Think Wonder.
That translation tool just went live, I want to say like 3 days ago for the first time. So I haven't even, I feel like, really got to explore it, but it is so awesome. So I'm so glad that we're able to highlight it
It's
here
still a
and
little
people are
warm
able
to the
to use
touch,
it.
isn't it?
Yeah,
It's so
totally.
new.
Absolutely. But I know for me already, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so awesome. So
Teresa,
great.
you are absolutely right. Absolutely fabulous for ESL students. I think you're talking about the visual discovery and the See Think Wonder and the oral literacy. Really helps them build their language skills.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and background knowledge for sure. All right, share those on social media. Remember that you could have a chance to win a $100 gift card and a TCI llama. I want one of those.
I know they are so cute, I will tell you.
Okay, Kelsey, I'm going to let you jump in here.
Yeah, I mean, you have heard it time and time again, I'm sure, in each of your sessions, but follow up, check out our PD courses that are right in your TCI account for support on any of these things, really, that we've talked about and more. Make sure you get our product updates newsletter, join our Facebook group. I know many of you are already there, but we would love to have you join that. You can scan that QR code. Follow us on Facebook and on Instagram, just to stay up to date with any latest and greatest that you don't want to miss out on.
Okay.
We already talked about the
But
PD.
they are really
They
good.
are so good, so good, and you can grab a certificate for those, get credit for the hours that you put into taking those courses. So definitely check that out. And
Okay.
then, oh yeah, go for it, Julie.
No, what'd you think? Give me a little feedback. Which one of these reflects where you're at today? Or especially after this session?
Got a lot of smiling faces. Love it. So great. So many. We're so glad that you're here. I mean, you can't see my face, but I am also smiling over here. No, Julie's got her beautiful smile on as well. So we're so grateful for all of you that joined, not only for this session, but for the summit. Um, you are the difference makers, right, in your classroom with your students. And we're so grateful for the opportunity to spend some of your summer with you today. Big
Yeah.
time.
Thank you for taking one of your precious summer days and spending it with us. And hopefully you got a lot of bang for the buck, and it will help you make a great school year for your kids.
Awesome. And I think we might have one more. Yes. Okay. You do, just so you know, post our time today. We will have, you'll have an opportunity for a PD certificate, also to be able to get a little TCI swag. We have a form for you to fill out, and I'm going to throw it into the chat. I'm failing over here. Let me throw this into the chat. So fill this out and we'll be able to get that to you, to let us know just kind of some of your feedback from the sessions today. How could we do better next year? What does that look like? So go ahead and fill that out for us for today so that we have that and we're ready to go. But we're so grateful for you being here, for joining. You will get an email that's got the certificate. You'll get the recording sessions. All of those things will follow up that with you. So just wait for that via email. Carmen, I saw you answered or asked that in the Q&A, so we will send that to you for sure. So take that survey. You can scan it there. I dropped it in the chat, and we will follow up with all these goodies. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the summit. And that really brings us to a wrap, Julie, for
Yeah,
this
there
year's
is no extra session
2025.
from this.
This is the end. This is the last one. So we're
What is
so
the saying?
grateful.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Yeah,
So we
yeah,
are
yeah.
we are
True.
wrapping up for the day, but thank you for being with us, and specifically thank you for joining us on this session. We appreciate
Absolutely.
you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. and have a great school year. Awesome. All right, Julie, I'm gonna say goodbye too.
Me too. I'm gonna
All
stop
right,
sharing.
bye,
Bye.
everybody.